Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming Reviews, where this week I'm taking a look at The Son of Art. As always, I want to start the episode by saying a massive thank you to the team over at Game.Press and the developers Cotton Game for letting me have a key of the game for review purposes. The game is available on PC via Steam, and at time of recording you're looking at around $8 and £6.69. So what is The Son of Art? The Son of Art is a 2D puzzle game where you play as an art seeker who literally steps into the worlds of four famous 20th century artists. Each chapter is inspired by a different artist. So you've got Picasso, Magritte, Mondrian and Malevich. And the whole idea is that you're going to be solving puzzles while exploring these painted surreal worlds and uncovering secrets. How does it play? When you boot the game up, you're presented with a menu centered around each artist. You have to play them in order, starting with Magritte. Once you jump into a world, you're immediately hit with really eye-catching, colourful visuals that clearly take inspiration from each artist's style. Since it's a puzzle game, the goal is to poke around the environment, find useful items, and figure out how everything fits together. Each screen has objects you can click on, pick up, and use with other objects on screen or on other screens. And while you're doing that, you'll also collect coins, and these unlock pages in a journal that give you extra background on the artist and the artwork that inspired the level you're on. And I thought that was a really nice touch. Solve all the puzzles in one world and you'll move on to the next artist. The controls, super simple, which is really what you want from this kind of game. I played on the Steam Deck and you've got two main options there. You can use a touchscreen, which I found to be the best way to play. Really responsive, just tap to select, pick up items, click on arrows to move around. Or you can use the controls, so the right stick moves the on-screen cursor, the right trigger is your select. Both work fine, but for me the touchscreen felt more natural. Graphics. The visuals in this game really simple but clean and colourful, and they do a great job of making you feel like you're actually in the artist's work or that they've been inspired by it. So yeah, for me the graphics are a big factor for this game. Sound-wise, it's a puzzle game, so there's nothing wild going on here. The sound design does its job, solid, unobtrusive, never annoying. There's not much more to say, but that's not a bad thing. Now the puzzles. This is obviously the big thing with a game like this. I found the puzzles pretty straightforward overall, but doesn't mean they're bad. I don't want to spoil too much, but you've got simpler things like finding a cherry to give to a crow so it'll fly off and bring back a key item. Then you've got your slightly more convoluted puzzles where, for example, in the Picasso world, you have to connect dots using a single line without crossing the same section twice. So the game doesn't really venture far from these types of puzzles. So it's a classic item A goes in place B logic to the more lateral thinking puzzles. I like the variety, and progression always felt smooth, and I was rarely stuck for too long. Now, the bad. It's a pretty short game, with only 4 chapters and puzzles that aren't overly cryptic. Most puzzle fans will probably get through it in just a few hours. I encountered a couple of bugs which I'll mention after, but ultimately, yeah, it's up to you to decide whether a couple of hours gameplay, and possibly 2-3 hours is value for $8 or £6.60. So what's good about the game? As I mentioned in the graphics section, it's a game that clearly respects the artist that it's representing, from, as I said, the graphical style through to the journal where you're getting more info. It feels like it's tried to pay a bit of care to that element. It looks great, and there is a good sense of achievement when you solve a few puzzles back to back. Sometimes you might be wandering or flicking through the screens for a little bit, but then once you've solved that key puzzle, you've got that domino effect that will mean you knock out 2 or 3 puzzles in a row. Now, the couple of caveats I was going to say. So during my playthrough, and bear in mind I got this very early on in its release, I had an update that seemed to wipe my progress and I had to restart the first world. So I wasn't too far in, so it wasn't a huge deal, but I wanted to note that. And as of recording this, I haven't technically finished the game. I think I'm on the last puzzle. I'm on the final puzzle of the final chapter, and it feels like something may have glitched in my game. I have no items in my inventory. I searched every available room and at the time felt completely stuck. So I checked an online walkthrough just to see if I'd missed something obvious. and it looks like I may have performed an action before picking up a key item, which meant an object never appeared for me. So I'm planning to go back into it or even restart it just to see if it's me that's messed up somewhere along the line. But since it's right at the very end, it's not going to block any progress early on. As I said, just wanted to raise that just in case anyone else may have seen that, or if it's just me. But yeah, a couple of caveats there. So my final thoughts on the game. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with The Son of Art. If you're into 2D puzzle games, or you've got even a passing interest in the artists featured here, I think it's one to check out. As I said, bear in mind, it's a short game, couple of hours, but at the asking price, it's possibly worth your time. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Gaming Views.